This is for my ancestors, Mom, Dad, grandmas and grandpas and beyond. It is from their sacrifices that I am here today, living a life I still dream about and love. But I am not of the past. I am of the future. I see art in experiences. I then abstract these experiences in a medium that communicates the experience best. Some call me a polymath, others a philosopher. I have been advertised as a singer, a poet, a nonfiction writer, a composer, a radical. I am most known as an artist. I am Vicki Milewski, an abstract experientialist. Abstract experientialism is a genre of art I have coined to explain how experience is abstracted into each artwork I create. Future experiences are what my art provides. I work on pieces knowing that they are not of the past. They are of the future. My work exposes reality for what it is. An experience we all share in making. Experiences of love, freedom, truth, and community are mixed into my work. I paint, draw, construct, compose, write, and perform. I make short films and create installations. My work involves love found in freedom, compassion found in action, and joy is a way of life. My curiosity drives discovery and questioning to create art, embracing human experiences as inspiration for the future. I'm Vicki Milewski, Abstract Experientialist artist, and I'm going to talk to you now about my barn collection. As you may have known if you've gone through some of these videos, we have a farm in Wisconsin, and on that farm we had a huge barn that my grandfather and father worked in. It was a huge barn that the wind took down this spring, and after I had been planning for over 4 years to do this collection, I decided that irony was too great, and I decided to move forward and do the collection as I had planned. In planning a collection, you have to not only gather your materials of paint and canvas, but you also have to do a lot of drawing and thinking and sketching. And so I had been doing that most of my life. Throughout my whole history as an artist, starting when I was just a little girl, I would sketch the barn, and I would show it in most of my paintings, even when it wasn't about a painting about the farm. And so this collection is simply called The Barn. And it shows more than the barn though. It shows my experiences with the barn, particularly the foundation stones, which were so magical to me as a child. And as I grew older, I realized how important some of the stones were and how carefully they had been chosen, not only because of their weight, but because of their strength. The other part of the barn that always fascinated me were the gray boards. The barn had never been painted, and as it became more and more weathered, those gray boards became silver, and sometimes they would shine brilliantly in the sun. I later found out that these gray boards were part of a whole metric of barns that were raised, logging the now extinct giant white pines. These pines could grow over 200 feet tall, and so some of the boards on the barn were quite long. As a child, I would just marvel at it, but as an adult, I realized it not only caused the extinction of this great tree species, but it also was the workshop and the center of life for my Polish grandparents. and for my father's beginning part of his life. The first picture that we'll look at is simply the barn. In the foreground is a field of soybeans, and here at the base it may look like flowers, but that's the foundation that I was talking about. You might see some of the shimmering of the boards, and I always thought that the roof with its tiling on it looked like flowers, blue flowers, and sometimes it would mimic the sky. This picture was inspired by a midnight stroll with the full moon. The moon would be approximately where I'm standing, and it was lighting on the barn, showing these clouds to be just luminous, and it was quite a magical evening. As an abstract experientialist, I try to abstract my experiences so that others may share in the experience or have their own personal experiences. On the top of the barn, you might see another shimmering object, and that is a cupola. These were used for venting because at the top of the barn was always filled to the roof with hay so that the farmer could then feed his cows through the winter. My grandfather worked the hay fields, and my father would always return to help my grandfather work. And after my grandfather passed, my dad bought the farm and was fortunate enough to find a neighbor to rent it. This picture here is a part of my Beyond Abstraction series. It intermingles with a lot of my different collections because it's a genre that I'm pushing against abstract art, pushing it into the future to go beyond what abstract art is, to see what more it can show us. You can see the barn here in the horizon with its shining boards and its flowered roof. And this here is the shadow of the barn. These are the fields that fly along the barn, and the red line that's going is the path that we have down to the lake. The Beyond Abstraction pieces are usually on paper, oil paint on paper. I've mixed this with some watercolors as well, and some oil pastels. The next picture is an oil painting that's 11 by 14 on canvas, like the first one. It shows the barn with that wonderful foundation on the bottom, a swirling sky that shows that it might start to storm, and a hayfield ready for harvest. I chose to make the path down to the lake white and the interior of the barn white because sometimes it would glow from within. We hadn't used the barn for many years before it fell down this spring, and so we stored some things in it, but for the most part it was empty. And sometimes the way the sun would shine would cause it to glow from within. The next piece is another one of my Beyond Abstraction pieces. This one shows just the barn's shadow. I added some of the metallic inks that I use on each of these pieces to show the shimmering gray boards of the barn, and the sun that is setting on the fields. You see the sky, you see the sun, and you see the cornfields that are getting dried out and almost ready for harvest. I also include in a lot of my exhibits things that informed my experiences. This is an actual piece of the barn wood from our barn, and it's something that's quite beautiful. I'm not sure if you can see the shimmering of the silver from the weathering, but this is a piece of that extinct white pine, giant white pine that I talked about earlier. This piece here is in two parts, although I'll sell them separately. They're 11 by 14 canvas with oil paints. The first one shows the barn with the wonderful flowered roof. And then I had an experience that those flowers that I saw that were just roofing shingles, but because of the way they were cut, they looked like flowers, they lifted off into the sky. And so that is what is happening in the sky. It's a dawn moment, and you can see the dawn is rising. The hayfield is getting ready to be cut, and of course that foundation is just so beautiful and large in this piece. Above it is an abstracted experience, not only showing the flowers from the barn roof, but also pieces of the foundation and etchings of the dawn sky. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the barn collection. I'm Vicki Milewski, Abstract Experientialist, and I am honored to be making these videos for the Chicago Public Library's Polish American Heritage Month. Have a nice day.